Athletic.com podcast. Let's go, everybody. Going to try to bounce back from a 2-3 week. We're 10-10 on the season, 50%, which is not great, not terrible. We're below the Mendoza line in terms of profitability, but there's 80 total games, just so you know, in the season. And it makes
a lot of games.
We're 4 weeks in. We're 25% way through. We're at 50%. Could be worse. Could be better. But plenty of time to make up lost ground. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. It's a beautiful day. I mean, the weather's insane. I'm up here and visiting a buddy up in Westport at Cappy's, and just fabulous weekend so far. I will say, you know what? 500 for us sounds worse than it is, considering the public bettors are off to their worst start in 20 years.
Is that right?
That data comes directly from the book. So it has been a very challenging environment this year to make money. No one has made money betting on these games. So, and when you see what I ranted about last on the wrap-up show, the officiating, and it happened again in the Tampa Bay game. It basically changed the game, changed the outcome of the game, cost Tampa Bay the game, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the officiating is a real issue in the NFL. It's something has to change, So I don't know if they'll do it, but don't beat yourself up too bad, guys, if you've been losing money or units, because it's been rough out there.
Yeah, I calmed down. I woke up several times Thursday night after the Tampa game. That holding call, I felt like in the moment cost me the cover, cost me the game.
100% it did.
Tampa the game, everything. But after thinking about it, I don't want to ever blame an official if I don't have to. And when you look at that last drive by Tampa, when there was a key fumble that happened. I know there was an interception after.
Of course there was. Yeah, the rookie, Lucky Irving,
try to seal the game. With a 3-point lead.
Mm-hmm.
And they, in my mind, looking back on it, they played too conservative on that final drive. Mike Evans was wide open for a touchdown.
I don't agree.
Hold on, let me finish.
Okay.
Mike Evans was wide open for a touchdown. Baker threw a screen pass instead. The offensive mindset in that moment when they had to, basically run the clock out, they were too conservative, and they ran the ball basically on every play. They threw a quick screen pass that was like a run, but they were just trying to get Atlanta to use their timeouts. They were trying to kick a field goal and take a 6-point lead, which in hindsight, if they would have done that, I would have gotten the cover and I would have been happy. But that
Correct.
was not, to me, a winning strategy to win that football game, and it cost them the game.
I understand your opinion. I don't agree with it. I think you have to make them burn all their timeouts there. And even after the fumble, they intercepted Cousins and got the ball right back. So their defense was up to the challenge. And if you remember, Atlanta went nowhere on the first two plays. And it's not just the hold. It was the non-call on the face mask at the same play, which is an offsetting situation where they would not have lost the 15 yards that got them out of field goal range. So that, I'm sorry, but I know I don't want to blame the officials all the time, but in this instance, the officials cost them the game and cost us the cover. I thought we were on the right side the whole game.
Me too. And that in the same breath, Chell.
Yeah. You don't want to blame.
Kirk Cousins had 500 yards passing.
He did. And
it didn't feel like it when I was watching it, but you can't deny those stats. And again, there wasn't enough D at the right moments. And especially at the end of that game when, you lose the coin toss and you have to hold them to a field goal. To give up a touchdown there when you hadn't given up a touchdown since I think the first quarter. That was brutal.
And how about to give up a touchdown to a guy that hadn't played all game, who came off the bench after London got hurt, and he made one catch and ran it down the middle for a score. I mean, it's just insane. I did see a stat earlier also, which I thought was interesting. I think there had been 9 times this year where quarterbacks have thrown for over 300 yards in a game, and combined, those quarterbacks had a losing record. So what it tells you is teams are way behind and they're chasing against prevent defenses, and they're allowing chunk plays and yardage plays in exchange for killing time, and they're so far ahead. So sometimes the stats can be a little misleading. Obviously in fantasy, it's totally different ball game. Like Cousins had the night of nights. If you're a fan, if you had him in fantasy,
but I mean, who cares?
you know,
It's
no one
not,
cares about that.
This isn't
But
a fantasy show, and I don't
no,
care.
I know. I just think you can look at it different ways. With stats can be misleading. It doesn't always lead to wins just because you threw for 500 yards. A lot of these guys don't win those games. Is my point.
Yep. Okay. Let's jump into this week's card.
Yeah.
Starting off tomorrow morning with the Jets playing Minnesota in London. So I already have my sort of 6 or 7 games that I like. This happens to be one of them. If you want, I'll go first. I like the Vikings in this game. I think the Jets have struggled with pressure. I think, Denver has the second highest blitz rate in the NFL. They did very well last week, and I'm pretty sure Minnesota is number 1 in terms of blitz rate.
Yep.
And they obviously struggled against San Francisco. I think there's some dysfunction going on with Hackett in this offense. I think Aaron Rodgers is a little banged up. He's a little slow. And I haven't seen enough out of the Jets to have confidence in this line. I feel like it should be more of like a 3.5 type line, and like laying a less than a field goal here with the Vikings. I would play Minnesota.
It's hard to argue against you. I mean, all the data would say that Minnesota is the play. They've been playing obviously very well this year. I haven't been great on Minnesota. I did have them that week against San Francisco straight out, which I thought was a good call as they were getting 6. I don't know. This line to me is a little fishy. There's a lot of stuff going on with the Jets, and there's been a lot of negative talk this week on the radio. I like to go against that kind of stuff. For some reason, I have a weird feeling the Jets are the side here, and I think they're going to get the win, and that makes 0 sense. So, sometimes when things don't make sense, I'm not saying I would bet it, but I'm not going to put Minnesota in our top 5. I'm leaning the other way. I think Aaron Rodgers. I think they're going to figure this out somehow. With all the negativity swirling around, it's just weird that it's 2.5. And Minnesota happens to be the most popular team in the UK. I didn't know that either, but they're number 1 social media and everything. So I would imagine there'd be a lot of Minnesota people there, purple, whatever.
I wonder why. That's do you think it just goes back to Vikings?
I don't know. It's really strange. I didn't know what to make of that, but I was interested in that. Listen, Minnesota's been fabulous all year. There's no doubt that they're among the best teams in the league. This one just feels weird to me from a trend standpoint. The total's gone over in 4 of the 5 times when they play Minnesota. The Jets are 6-3 straight up in their last 9 games when they play Minnesota. Now that's just historical stuff. It doesn't really matter. It's Darnold versus Rodgers, and it's basically how Rodgers can handle the blitz. Like you said, he gets rid of the ball pretty quick. He can outthink it. I think they got to get back to running the ball. I mean, I'd like to see more Breece Allen and Breece and Allen, getting the ball more. I think that's the recipe for the Jets. So I don't agree with you on this one. We'll agree to disagree.
Okay, you're passing. I like the Vikings. Let's move on to Cleveland, Washington. I mentioned on the show on Monday night, I have a bet on Cleveland at 3.5. I think this is a perfect buy low spot on the Browns. They are my team. As you know, I loved the Raiders last week. That played out as I expected. I think, the country is obviously very high on Washington and Jaden Daniels. He can do no wrong so far. My handicap is primarily based on the fact that there's going to be a regression to the mean for the negative for Washington and for the positive for the Browns. This is let's just go back to a month ago. The Browns were ranked 5th coming into the season, and I'm pretty sure the Washington was ranked either 28th or 29th in the league.
Yes.
And I think that regression is going to play out. I think, we're getting Njoku back. The offensive line is obviously a huge question, and I'm not even sure how that's going to play out. And we probably won't know until game time tomorrow, or maybe there'll be some early morning releases. But either way, I think it reminds me of the Tampa game, which was week 1, which is where Daniels really struggled. I know that was his first game in the NFL, but I mean, I think I've been listening to a lot of shows and pods this week, and I think there's very wide, wide variance in opinions on this game. It's sort of like you either love Washington or you love Cleveland in this game. Most professional bettors like Cleveland just based on data. And I'm sort of in that camp. And I also think that, that it's time for Washington to come back down to earth a little bit. And we obviously need a win. I mean, it sucks that it's our second straight road game, but despite that, I like the 3.5 number. The preseason look ahead line in this game was Cleveland -1. So to have that much variance just based on 4 weeks, and again, Washington, the last 3 games they played was against 3 of the worst 5 defenses in the league, and I'm discounting that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean that I think you did a pretty good job there of illustrating why you like Cleveland. It's weird. 3.5, I think, is a lot of points in this game too. And for some reason, Washington has been so dazzling on offense. I mean, the kid has been unreal. I saw a thing just this morning about that might be leading to his success is that Washington, along with LSU, had employed a virtual, like a VR technology with him. So he wears those goggles. So even when he's not getting reps, he puts those goggles on and he's facing virtually all the defenses that he would see. So if he's playing let's say a cover 3 or whatever it is that you see a lot of, he's preparing, the night before the game and that without actually taking reps. I mean, it led to a Heisman Trophy for him. It led to a championship at LSU. Washington immediately employed it with their team as soon as they drafted him. And, suddenly he's 4-0 and he's like, he's lighting up the league. So
3-1.
I think it's just interesting. The technology using the technology
on this podcast on Monday night that Washington is going to host a playoff game.
Yeah, I do believe that. I think they're going to win the NFC East. I think they're clearly the best. And I think that Dan Quinn is probably going to fix that defense as best he can because that's his culture. But I would go with you on this one. I just think it's another one weird. I think 3.5 seems like a lot. I thought Cleveland should have beaten the Raiders last week. I think they got obviously jobbed on that holding call, that phantom call. So I think they can potentially bust through. And if not, I think it'll be close enough where they'll lose the game by 3 or less.
Okay. So you're with me. Let's see where we end up in terms of alignment.
Because it's 3.5. And I think that hook in this game is big.
Yep. All right. Another AFC North battle that we love. Ravens Cincy. I said at the beginning, this feels like a trap line. It's 2.5 for the contest. Pretty sure it's still 2.5 at one. Every time it touches 3, it comes back to 2.5. I'm passing on this game. If anything, if you like the Ravens, I could be talked into it. I just haven't. It's so hard for me to believe that Cincy is going to have a good enough defense in this game to slow these guys down, unless they go into Jekyll and Hyde mode, the Ravens, that is, and just don't perform anything like what we saw against the Bills. But I know it's a division battle. I want to see Cincy prove to me that they can play defense first before I would pick them in a game of this magnitude with how good Baltimore has looked the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Their defense has shown us nothing. I mean, they even gave up over 3 touchdowns to Carolina, and that's an offense that I wouldn't say is a juggernaut. I mean, the way the Ravens are going now with Derrick Henry and with Lamar, it's hard. I mean, the line is weird. I get it. A lot of these games go over the total between these teams. I could see it being a shootout, and if it's a shootout, I think that's how Cincinnati can do it. Because if it's just going to be a matter of outscoring them, and the Ravens are not going to bring that defense that they've been bringing into Cincinnati, and Burrow's going to have success. He is 3-1 against Lamar in his career, so you have that going too. And you're getting 2.5. I mean, I wish it was. If this line was 3.5 or 3, even I would take Cincinnati. But 2.5, I just don't. It's just hard. I would skip the game. If anything, I would play over the total, and I would look for that continuation of that trend of just a high-scoring shootout game.
Okay, you're passing. All right, I'm not upset about that. I think I feel like this is a trap game, and I'm glad we're not going to take Baltimore, because if Cincinnati wins this game, it's going to be like shame on me. Like for liking Baltimore.
Well, by the way, listen, Cincinnati could easily win this game. Baltimore, their first 2 games of the year did not look good. Remember, so they played 2 strong games in a row. They've gotten back to giving Henry the ball. He's dominating on the ground, and that opens everything up for their offense. I mean, that's what they haven't had in the past. So, and also Justice Hill, he's a really nice addition to that running game. He's so quick and he's so opposite of Derrick Henry. Like he's not a pounder. He gets the ball in space, he makes people miss, and he's gone. So they're a dangerous offensive team when they're clicking Baltimore. That's the thing. Right now they're clicking, and I haven't seen anything out of Cincinnati. I mean, I know Trey Hendrickson's great, but he's been even underperforming this year, and their linebacker play has not been good. I don't know how they're going to stop the run.
Okay. Let's move on. Bills, Houston. I like Buffalo in this game, despite the fact it's a second straight road game. I'm not impressed with Houston. I think they, again, I'm pretty sure they lead the NFL in penalties, which, spells a lack of discipline. And, it's almost like you're counting on them to fix that problem in a game like this. And, I just think it's sort of like they go to, and by the way, Buffalo's getting back. I forget the two guys in the middle on defense. So that's going to help. And I just think like an angry Buffalo team coming off like an embarrassing loss to Baltimore is going to show up for this game and show Houston, kind of like who the second or third best team is in the AFC. And it's Buffalo, right? It's still KC, Baltimore, and Buffalo. And Houston has to prove to me that in a game of this size, even though they're at home, that they can win. And I'm just not seeing it out of this offense. What do you think?
What are Buffalo's -1? Yeah, so they're favored going to this game. That line has not moved all week. I kind of agree with you. I mean, I hate these teams second week in the row on the road, and I think they played a stinker. I mean, they got their asses kicked in Baltimore. We all saw what happened there. It wasn't even competitive. So I like Josh Allen in a bounce back here. I haven't also been super impressed with the Texans this year. I know Joe Mixon is coming back this week, so that's going to help them. It really hurt them last week. I just don't know, like you said, with the discipline and the penalties and that kind of stuff. To me, Josh Allen, Buffalo's 9-2 straight up in their last 11 games, so they're playing really good football. Houston also is 5-1 straight up at home, so they play well at their home field. This should be a close game.
I need to correct you on something.
Yeah,
according to RotoWire, Mixon is out. He's been ruled out for Sunday.
Are you serious? Wow, I didn't know that. Okay,
and even if he was healthy, I'm one of my big parts of my handicap is that it's their running game. Houston's running game, even in the games that he's played in, hasn't been like up to par. And granted, there's a lot of holding going on, so that's part of the penalty thing.
Yeah,
but without him in there, I like Buffalo even more. I mean, I forget who his backup is. It's Dameon Pierce.
Dameon Pierce hasn't been. He's hurt. He's hurt.
So it's Cam Akers.
Right, it's Cam.
That's who you have to stop, and you have to obviously stop. These wide receivers, which are really good.
Oh, Nico Collins is amazing, and obviously you have Diggs, and I don't even think Tank Dell's playing, but I agree. I'm with you on this. I like Buffalo too, and a bounce back here. I think the line is trying to tell you something there. That Buffalo, probably I don't know what the look ahead line on this was, but I would think Buffalo probably would have been favored maybe by 3 even in this game. So
I don't think it would ever have been like that high.
No,
probably always just 1.5, maybe 2. But it's staying true to that.
I'll take the Bills with you. Let's take the Bills.
Okay, great.
I'm fine with it.
Let's move on. I'm passing on this. Is a really ugly game. Colts Jags 2.5. The Jags are reeling. Look, part of me thinks this is it. This is where they're going to get their first win. I'm not impressed with the Colts at all, but I would not put this in my top 5. But I do like Jacksonville to finally get their first win this week. I think Richardson actually might be playing. I can check that real quick. But do you have any opinion on this one?
I mean, the trends tell you the Jags own this matchup. Yeah. The Colts are 1-8 against the spread in their last 9 against the Jaguars, and 0-8 against the spread in their last 8 games in Jacksonville. So this is the time for Jacksonville to get right. They're fully healthy. They have all their players. I know ETN is kind of
Taylor's out.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's good for us. I'm saying that he's on the Colts, but I'm saying Jacksonville.
I'm tempted to take Jacksonville.
Yeah, I like Jacksonville.
I really don't want it to be in our.
They should win this game. I mean, everything is telling you Jacksonville is the side. They're a bad team. They're 0-4. They haven't done much. Peterson, we don't really like, but they dominate this. They dominate this rivalry. this interdivision rivalry. They've owned it. So
There's a
I would
reason to ride the
that.
trend. There's a reason to ride the trend in this one, and I could be. I hope we have more games, but I like Jags here.
Me too. And if Jonathan Taylor's not playing, that really hurts the Colts.
Yes. Okay, so let's put that as a tentative. Well, we both like the Jags, so
yep,
it is what it is. Panthers Bears. I've been thinking a lot about this one, and most of the week I've pretty much liked Chicago. I still do, but it's I really want to. What I said on Monday night, like stay away from bad teams, and this is a perfect example of that. I do think the line should be probably like 4.5, 5, so 3.5. I think there's some value here. And I think like the Bears finally got their running game on track, and Carolina cannot stop the run. They have a terrible defense. They're still like in a bad way, but something tells me that like Carolina can like backdoor this game, because like Chicago's offense just hasn't been that great. I kind of see them getting on track here, but either way, I don't want to waste a lot of breath on this. I'm passing on this one.
Yeah, it's funny because you kind of nailed the trends. Like Carolina's 4-1 against the spread against Chicago in this matchup, but Chicago's 5-0 straight up in their last 5 games at home. We know that their defense has been good in their special teams, and I mean, I could see somehow Carolina going in there and somehow covering the 4. You know what I'm saying? So I would avoid Chicago here laying the 4. But if you wanted to throw them in a teaser just to win the game at home, I think they will win. I don't see how Carolina can actually win this game. I see them hanging around in an ugly, low scoring game, and maybe 19-16 or one of those stupid type of scores where Santos wins this game by field goal or less. So dangerous game, I think, to lay.
Yeah, I even think that one thing I'm going to keep an eye on it from a teaser perspective is that if this like sort of, I could see this being one of those games where the line starts running tomorrow morning and it gets up to like 4.5. And in that case, like if it gets to 4.5,
you can get 10.5 for Carolina.
And I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're passing here. Next game is Dolphins Patriots. I'm also passing. I mean, I know Patriots lost their center. Mike McDaniel is on the verge of tears in press conferences. Neither one of these teams are going anywhere fast.
Who's their quarterback?
It's an ugly game. Who, Miami?
Yep.
It is going to be Snoop Huntley.
It's going to be Huntley again.
Yeah.
God, it's so bad. Yeah. Dolphins have won and covered the spread in 7 straight games against New England.
I know.
So that's like with Tua and dominating and getting the ball to Tyreek Hill. The problem is Snoop hasn't been able to do it. He tried twice and he underthrew him once and overthrew him the next time. Tyreek Hill is very frustrated. So is Waddle. I still think, listen, New England is really bad on offense. Both these teams, I think, are struggling. It's going to be a low scoring game. It's a game to skip. I mean, if I had to bet it, I'd take Miami.
Yeah, me too, but I won't do it. It's ugly, right? You're passing also. Let's move on. Cards 49ers. Let's switch the order for the second half of the games. Why don't you go first?
It's 7.5, right?
Yeah.
I like that. I like the points. I think it's going to be a shootout game. It's one of those weird games. Kyler, I think, looked terrible last week. Obviously, Washington had a 7-0 lead. Arizona jumped out to a 7-0 lead, and I was like, oh, this is exactly how this game is going to go. Washington came right back and scored 7, and then Arizona just stopped scoring. I don't see that happening here. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. San Francisco still is not 100%, healthy on offense. And for some reason, Kyler, I think, against San Francisco has had some success in the past putting up points. So this one to me is a shootout type game, and 7.5 is really attractive to me in a scenario like that.
Okay. I like the 49ers here, or pass. I can't bet on Arizona after what they did to us last week and after the way that their defense is.
Yeah.
Their offense,
it's not good.
I didn't think I thought that every week they would be in a shootout this year. But last week against one of the worst defenses, and I know Washington's improving, but still the fact that they, laid an egg at home like that, and then to go on the road. I know it's a division game, but my God, if San Francisco can beat up on, they've been pretty much beating up on everyone. Like, why wouldn't they do that
Except
again? Why
Minnesota.
wouldn't they win
I
this
mean,
game by
it-
13, 14, 11? Like, I'm not
they
going to
could
do it.
easily. I'm not saying that we should take Arizona. I'm saying in my pick pool, if I'm getting 7.5, I like that number. I think
Yeah, even
that
if you have to
game
pick every game.
at any point, that game, that even down 14 with the last drive with Kyler with the ball in his hand, that spread can be covered.
Yeah.
So and it wouldn't surprise me that you have a high scoring game like that where, he's able to backdoor this game.
Yeah, no, me neither. I wouldn't be surprised, but I can't. I don't.
And here's the other thing, Jack. One other thing I think is important for bettors to understand. This season, underdogs of 6 or more are 14-2-1 against the spread this year.
Wow.
I mean, it's undeniably good.
Great.
Only 9-8, only 9-8 straight up. So they're not, but still, underdogs of 6 or more have won 9 out of 17 games straight up.
Wow.
And covered 14 out of 17.
Wow.
So that's just undeniable. So I'm until that trend is broken, I'm going to lean toward these teams that are getting that many points.
Yeah. Good stat. I like that.
Mhm.
Next one is Raiders Broncos. I think a
lot of turmoil, right?
I'm passing on this one. I definitely lean Denver. I like the way that they've been playing, despite the fact that their offense really struggles. But Bo Nix has not been turning the ball over, which is great. On the flip side, Raiders seem to be unraveling. Like we all know, Devontae Adams wants out of there, and I kind of feel like Dameon Pierce may be losing the locker room on some level.
Antonio Pierce, but yes, you're right.
Sorry, Antonio Pierce. I don't know. Do you feel strongly on either side here?
Honestly, I think again, this is a weird thing for me. I'm taking the opposite approach here. I mean, I get Bo Nix is not turning it over, but he's also passing for 60 yards a week. So he's really not. They're not even letting him really throw the ball all that much. But the Raiders have owned this matchup. I mean, the Raiders are 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 when playing Denver, and 5-0 straight up when they play Denver. It's also normally a low-scoring game. I don't think Pierce has lost the locker room at all. I think he's trying to hold these guys accountable. I think Crosby will probably be back this week. They may get that linebacker kid back again too. And Denver's offense doesn't scare me. So I could see the turmoil surrounding Devontae Adams and everything that's going on with the Raiders kind of working in their favor. And I think they block out all that noise and they just go in there and they beat Denver the way they always do. So I like the Raiders here, and I would put them. I have them in a teaser plus 8.5.
I like that take. That's a little bit non-conventional, but you're riding the trends, which I also like. So
yeah, and it's not like, listen, if Denver's offense was on fire and they were putting up like Washington type points, and Bo Nix was out there doing everything right and reading defenses and being that type of individual performer that's lighting up the stage, but he's not. So they're getting by with good defense, which is really good. And they shorten the game, and they want the game basically to be a low scoring game that they're going to win on defense, and he's not going to turn it over, and they're going to win 13-10 or 17-14 or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. To me, I don't know if you can do that every week. I think it's hard to do in the NFL. Not that Minshew's great, but I'm just going to take the take that the Raiders are going to show up and use the negativity. Pierce is going to have them ready to go. I think they're going to win the game outright.
I like it. Rams are hosting the Packers and getting 3.5.
Is it that much?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're going to like the Rams here. I just know you, and I love Stafford, but man, Green Bay owns this matchup like I've never seen. I mean, 9-1 straight up in their last 10 when playing the Rams. And 5-0 against the spread when playing the Rams. So I really like Jordan Love a lot. I think he's going to, he's coming off the knee. I think he's going to be much better this week. The Rams are a really banged up team. I would take Green Bay in the over here.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're right. I looked at this line. I was like, how could they be getting 3.5 at home? Jordan Love, I'm not doubting how good he is, but he definitely gets off to slow starts. They tend to fall behind. And that said, I know he's going to end up having a good game. It's a good look for like a second half bet. But also, they're very fast on turf. It kind of reminds me of them playing Dallas. So this is like one of those environments where they can just like explode on a team.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
That said, I don't like betting against McVay. Unless, and especially, if anything, if you were liking the Rams, I could maybe be talked into it, but for me, like right when I saw this, I knew I was going to be staying away. I don't see like that much value in either side.
Listen, if the Rams had Nakua and Cooper Kupp and they were healthy, I would take the Rams plus 3.5, of course. But the line wouldn't be 3.5.
Right.
If they had those guys back, the Rams would be favored in this game. But they're a banged up team. They play hard on defense, but this is a hard team to defend. Yeah. Green Bay has so many fucking weapons, man. I mean, they just keep coming. So, and they need a win. I mean, they're coming off a loss at home to Minnesota, a game that they basically gave Minnesota 2 missed field goals and a bunch of turnovers, and they still only lost the game at the end by 2. So they're going to come in hungry and ready. And like you said, it's a fast track. And the Rams, I just don't think have the horses on defense to keep up with these guys, especially if they can't counter the scoring. Kyren Williams is amazing. He scores every week, the running back. And I know they have Atwell and Robinson but these guys are 3 and 4 receivers. They're not, wide receiver 1 and 2. So I don't know. I think it's too much. I think Green Bay in the over. Green Bay is going to score in the 30s, I think, and the Rams are not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me just put that down for you because we may be searching for a pick at the end here. Okay. Giants, Seattle. Neighbors did not get on the plane.
God, it's so bad for the Giants.
I have Seattle in this game. I like them bouncing back off of that tough loss to Detroit. I know it's a short week, but they are home, and the Giants have to travel across the country. And, I think I saw that Neighbors gets like a 40% target share.
He does.
It's like, how are they going to win without him? And during the Cleveland game, I said to myself, you have one guy to stop, and we couldn't stop him.
Couldn't stop him.
I mean, who's next? Who's up next for the Giants?
Well, I mean, I don't think the answer is great. I mean, they have Wan'Dale Robinson, they have Darius Slayton, and they have Hyatt, who's the receiver they took 2 years ago, who hasn't really worked his way into the offense all that much. He hasn't been great. Seattle is 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 when they're playing the Giants, and 6-1 straight up. Did that line move to 7 off the news that
Neighbors the contest, because it came out Wednesday, have 6.5, and I'm pretty sure the market is 7.
It's got to be right because Neighbors has at least got to be half a point there.
Right. So
it's hard to take the Giants here. I will remind you of that stat I just told you: 6 or more underdogs are 14-2-1 against the spread, 9-8 straight up. So I don't know if that matters here. With I think when you lose your number 1 wide receiver, it's very hard to win a game in the NFL, or let alone cover a spread on the road in Seattle. So. Seattle has a lot of injuries on defense. I think that's something we got to look at tomorrow morning, because if Owusu's not playing and their corner that I really like is not playing, that helps the Giants a lot. This is a hard one. This is a skip game for me. I don't love Seattle here because I'm scared of those points. But I don't see a huge offensive game here. I think this could be a low scoring type game, but I don't know. I would avoid the game if I had to.
Okay. Let's touch base on that.
If Neighbors was playing and I was getting 6.5, I would take the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually inclined to do that also, but as soon as he was ruled out, I mean,
yeah, it's tough, man. When you lose your wide receiver 1 in the NFL, it's not easy.
Well, and especially when you don't have other sort of weapons that can fill in the gaps. Like he was just he's just so important to that.
Wan'Dale Robinson's been very good. I mean, he gets 10 to 12 targets a game. He catches a lot of balls for them underneath. Their running game is not great. I mean, Singletary is just okay.
Yeah.
Seattle, Kenneth Walker is unbelievable, and they have weapons. As long as Geno Smith plays well, they should win this game at home and cover. I mean, the Giants are, this is a hard place for the Giants to play. Historically, they have not done well in Seattle. So
I know.
I mean,
just think without Neighbors, you just make it so easy for McDonald's.
Maybe you throw Seattle in a teaser down, you lay half a point and find something else to put them with. I would be okay with that.
Okay. Your game Sunday night, Steelers Cowboys.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Playing well at home. Love Tomlin at home at night. I mean, the guy's got an undeniably good record. No Micah Parsons, no Dexter Lawrence. A lot of injuries for Dallas. Steelers offensive line has some injuries too, but we're getting Siamalu back, and he is dominant up front. So I like us to cover the spread here. I think we win the game. If Dallas had a full complement of players, maybe I'd feel differently. CeeDee Lamb's going to score a touchdown no matter what. I mean, he scores every week, so you're not stopping him. I don't think Dallas can run the ball, especially against us. I think Watt is going to be a difference maker in this game. Dak's going to make a couple mistakes off pressure, and the Steelers are going to win this game. So I like us at home. I like Tomlin at night, especially off a loss. So it's a good spot for us. I think we win the game. We're laying less than a field goal, right?
Yeah, it's 2.5.
Yeah.
When I first saw this, I was a little surprised you were favored. I would have loved to have seen you as a 1.5 point dog, but I can't believe Dallas is an underdog in this game. I think they're a better team than Pittsburgh. Obviously people have such high expectations for Dallas all the time. They did win. I mean, it's like, they disappoint people when they win and don't cover. They lose bad games at home, but I don't know, Chell. I'm not there on Pittsburgh this week. I actually lean Dallas a little bit in this one, and I'm passing, and I know you'll never take whoever's playing Pittsburgh.
Well, I think at night it's hard to go against Tomlin at night. It's very, very hard to go against Dallas. I mean, to go against Pittsburgh with Tomlin at home at night. His record is unbelievably good.
You must like Dallas in a tease in this game with such a low.
You could. It's a Wong teaser for sure because the total is under 49. So if you wanted to put them in a Wong, you could and put them with anyone else that you would. I would say the Raiders or the Jets or any of those. Those are Wong teasers. So you could get 8.5 in all those games and do that. I just can't imagine us not winning this game by at least 3 points at home. We have a great kicker, an unbelievable defense. Their two best defenders are not playing. And I got to look at where Diggs is. If Diggs was a little dinged up also in their secondary, he may not be playing. So if that's the case, I don't see how. And Justin Fields is playing great football, really, really good. So I think, I think it's, I don't want to say easy, but I think we're catching Dallas at the right time.
Okay. Last game of the week is Monday Night Football with your favorite team, the Kansas City Chiefs, who get every call in the league.
Yep, they sure do.
To the Saints. Is this too many?
No, I like Kansas City a lot here. I think the Saints. This isn't a great spot for the Saints. This is really hard. And Derek Carr has a horrendous record at Arrowhead in his career. I think he's like 1-11 or something like that. So I think the Saints are going to get smashed here. I don't think this game's close. I think Kansas City wins this game by over 10 points, and there's not even going to be a backdoor opportunity here for Carr. That's the way I feel about it.
Even though there's that trend about the Chiefs not covering lines more than 3, and like Mahomes has looked a little shaky, their offense has looked shaky. No part of you thinks this is too many to lay?
It's more about Derek Carr for me in this spot. He's been a horrendous performer at Arrowhead. I don't see him going in there and winning this game. And it's only 5. So we're laying less than a touchdown with Kansas City at home. I'm taking that. I'm taking Kansas City.
Okay. Kamara questionable. I tend to agree with you. He's going to play though. He always seems to play.
Yeah, Kamara's one of those guys. He guts it out. He does. Yeah, he's tough.
He guts it out. He plays well.
He's sick. He's a freak. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So we've got alignment on a bunch here, including Cleveland, Buffalo, Jacksonville, and the Chiefs. Looks like we need one more, and we'll find it by the time 1 o'clock rolls around tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll have to find one more game that we like. If we have to maybe bite the bullet and go Cincinnati, I could be talked into it. That would be one that I'm looking at. I know I like the Raiders to go in there and win that game. I know you're like Denver, the way they're playing on defense. Hard not to like the way Denver's been playing on defense. Got to admit that. Van Johnson has them playing some great ball. But this is like one of those division rivalry games where they've just been on the wrong side of this thing every time. So that's one that I could be leaned toward. But you let me know. Listen, today
you can't. You feel strongly about the Jets. Like you can't be talked into Minnesota.
Man, I could, but then I'd be kind of betting against myself because I already put some bets in with the Jets plus 8.5. I put a money line bet in with them, so I have them bet already based on.
Okay, you have the teaser. I mean, we could win both of those easily with these defenses.
It's true. I don't know. Something about these London games. I'd rather it's hard to get a feel for me on it. I don't know how the travel affects these teams. I don't, it's strange. The whole thing is strange to me. So
okay. The other candidate seems like where you're less on the fence and more toward where I'm thinking is the Seattle game.
Yeah, I could be talked into that too, especially without Neighbors. If we have to lay the points, we can do it.
So what injury is concerning you there on Seattle?
Owusu, their best pass rusher, has been. I think they lost 4 players in that game to Detroit during the game. And they were all defensive players.
His status is, I don't know, Owusu. What position does he play?
I think he's their pass rusher. He's an outside linebacker.
Oh, Nowusu.
Yeah, Nowusu. Yeah,
he's healthy.
Oh, good. Wow. Okay.
No injury designation ahead of the Giants game.
That's great. All right. So if I'll take Seattle, then what are we laying? 6.5 in the contest?
Yeah.
Great. Great number.
We get that nice CLV, take advantage. That line will probably go to 7.5.
Maybe 8. Probably go to 8.
Yeah, you could. That's like a nice middle opportunity if you got that early in the week. But I like Seattle. Okay, so we're aligned on Seattle.
Great, I love it.
We'll confirm tomorrow morning before we head the newsletter out. But yeah, I think this is funny. This is like the beginning of the week. I heard this was like the lowest volume week of the year in terms of handle for the books. It was like this is like everybody was not feeling strongly about anything, and kind of like there's a lot of passes by the syndicates and the professional bettors this week, and even the podcasts I listened to kind of echoed that. I'm not hearing like a lot of picks out of a lot of people. Have 1, 2, maybe 3 picks when normally there's a handful. But hey, we got to come up with 5 for the contest. But I feel like the 5 that we're agreeing on, I don't know, I feel better about them than I have about some of the ones in the previous weeks.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Listen, like I said earlier on the podcast, the public is getting their asses kicked gambling this year. I mean, they're off to the worst start public betting in 20 years. So it's demoralizing. Plus, you got playoff baseball, which has been super exciting, and everything's going to continue.
Your stat about the heavy favorites not covering is basically like exactly what you're talking about there with the public and
crushing the public, because the public loves favorites.
Yeah, and look at the survivor pools getting wiped out weeks 1, 2, and 3, like all those big favorites.
Absolutely. I mean, it's that's indicative of what's been going on, and it's demoralizing for people. But I'll tell you, it is a gorgeous day out today, guys. Get out there and enjoy this beautiful fall day. Make sure you join wannamakeabet.com and get into the leagues. It's much more fun to gamble these units than it is to lose your hard-earned money every morning when you wake up and you owe the bookie money or you owe FanDuel money. Just fire in the units, sit back. You can still be angry when you lose, because you will lose, but you're not losing money out of your pocket. And
especially all these things that we keep talking about with the referees.
I mean, they're making it so hard to win.
When you lose real money on a bad call, it hurts so much more.
Oh my God, it's got to be devastating. I'm so glad those days are over for me. Like, that's just so glad. I get pissed enough losing units and parlays, man. I couldn't imagine losing thousands of dollars on these calls. I mean, I'd be irate. Remember that guy years ago? We lived in the Lower East Side. That guy you can't hold Chad Hennings like that.
God,
and his veins were popping out of his fucking neck.
I thought about that recently, and it's such a funny reference. And it's also like, I was thinking about, first of all, a couple things on that, and that like I don't know if the days are over where people, congregate in sports bars and everybody's gambling. I haven't been to one in so long, because everybody's got Red Zone now, and it's just like it's all been sort of transported into our living rooms.
It still goes on. Trust me. I've been to a couple local bars like Changing Times by us, and there's huge tables of all guys wearing all different jerseys, and they're cheering randomly.
I'm sure,
between fantasy a lot too, like with their guys' scores. You're getting a lot of that.
But what's great about that story, and I'll tell all our listeners, is I'm sure that the same is still true today. But back in the day, you could tell who had money on a game or a lot of money on a game so easily in a bar by just their like little reactions to otherwise meaningless plays. And we were all in a bar on the Lower East Side, and this guy,
Oh.
this bus boy or one of the waiters was clearing tables,
Oh,
and he nearly lost his mind over a holding call
he did.
in the middle of a game, like a scoreless game with Dallas. I forget who they were playing, but he just he turned purple.
God, he erupted. I mean, that was like his rent money. You know what I'm saying? That was his rent money.
Oh God, that's so great. All right, everybody, good luck with your selections. We'll get the newsletter out tomorrow morning with our final 5 picks, and we'll be back to you either Sunday or Monday night with a recap show on week 5.
Let's go Yankees.
All right, buddy. Good luck.
See you, buddy.